Uh, my sharing rights, slide sharing.
Just 1 minute, sir. Initially, we will introduce you,
Okay,
and
okay.
we will be sharing your introduction also. And
All right, thank you.
after introduction, you
Okay.
can share your slide.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Organizing team, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Fine. Sir, shall we start? Yes, sir. Sir, already joined. Hello, sir. Am I audible to you? Hello, sir. Am I audible to you?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Look, Santosh, your voice is very low.
Okay. Oh, just a moment.
Yeah.
Am I audible to you right now? Yes, sir.
Yeah, now you are quite perfectly audible.
Fine.
Yeah.
Sadhvi,
Yes, sir.
organizing team.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Okay, sir.
So please be ready. So once again, warm welcome to all the participants. So today we have with us Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Raghuvir Singh. He is from Thirthankar Mahaveer University, Uttar Pradesh, and he will be sharing the precious inputs on challenges, opportunities for achieving excellence in higher education. I request organizing team to introduce our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir.
Yes, sir. A very warm welcome to everyone present. It's my privilege to introduce you to our today's eminent speaker for this session, Professor
Please show the
Dr.
slide. Please show that slide.
Yes, sir.
Make it short. Make it short. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Professor Dr. Raghuvir Singh, sir. Professor Dr. Raghuvir Singh is the present Vice Chancellor of Thirthankar Mahaveer University, Moradabad, UP. He boasts 27 years of full-time teaching experience in management, MBA and PGDM, including 2 years in electrical engineering. Dr. Singh has been an academic leader for the last 23 years and is an institution builder. He has been working as head of various management institutions for the last 27 years. Dr. Singh has done multiple publications, research work, paper presentations, invited lecturers and seminars and workshops throughout his brilliant career. Professor Dr. Raghuvir Singh has worked in Manipal University, Jaipur, JK Business School, Gurgaon, UPES, Gurgaon campus, ISTE, Delhi, and BITS Pilani, etc. He has written 4 well-known books, including Creativity and Innovation, Breaking the Barriers to Reach the Bottom of the Pyramid, and Pester Power Effect of Advertising on Children. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Raghuvir Singh, sir, to kindly commence the session. A warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank
Warm
you so
welcome
much.
to you, sir.
Thank
Now
you.
the session is hand over to you. Yes, sir.
Can I have that sharing
Yes,
rights?
Yes,
Sharing.
yes, you can share right now.
Where do I find sharing rights here?
Sir, at the bottom, at the central place, there is one rectangle where you will find one arrow moving upward.
Okay.
If you
Present now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, present now. Please
Okay.
click it.
Yeah.
Then there are the 3 options.
Mm-hmm.
Please select your entire screen.
Yeah. Selected entire screen.
So when you select your entire screen, you will find the many things over there. Now select the presentation. Have you kept your presentation open?
Yeah, it's open.
Yeah, so select the presentation in that.
Presentation. Able to get a hold of that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It is getting visible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
You please go to the presentation, sir. You have again switched over to your screen.
Stop presenting. Yes, it's
No,
showing.
no, not stop presenting. Go to your presentation slide. At the
Yes.
bottom, you might
Okay.
have opened the presentation
Okay.
slide.
Okay.
Now keep it over there only. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Now,
Yes,
now it's visible.
yes, perfectly.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to speaking to you all. And thanks so much to Dr. Rani for giving me an opportunity to be here with you. My topic for the day, as you could see, is challenges and opportunities for achieving excellence in higher education. Uh, Before I go on to actually elaborating on each of this, I would like to define each term. That is, what do we mean by education? What do you mean by excellence in education? What are those challenges which we face today, and what are those opportunities ahead of us? Right? You see, the biggest challenge which I see as a faculty member, which have been there in almost about 27 years teaching in the classroom, and also as a leader, biggest challenge to me has been in higher education, the poor understanding of the education itself. Most of us, unfortunately, do not understand the education. When I say don't understand the education, means none of us have been ever been trained in education. We are excellent in our own domain areas, but no one ever actually trained us in how to educate others. Unlike at secondary school or a primary school, they spend almost about 2 years in learning how to educate children. But we were never taught how to educate adults. Whatever we have learned over a period of time has learned our own self. And at times, a lot of us actually also recommend that organic learning is much better than inorganic learning. That is training. So, in my mind, yes, training is very, very important because it can lessen your time and effort which you put in learning anything. So, thank God, pandemic that a lot of us have been talking about education for last 2 years almost. I can say about my own self that amount of you know webinars I have conducted, and the number of times I've spoken on education for last 2 years, I had not been able to do it for last 25 years, not even 25% of that. Let me be frank. We hardly talked about education in the past. What we all talked about, whether it was the seminars, whether it was conferences or workshops, most of us all talked about our own domain areas. So, pandemic has brought one excellent thing to us is we started talking about education, and of course, that was also catapulted by NEP 2020 as well, because ever since then we have had a lot of talks on education. So our agenda goes this way. I'll define, as I said, education, holistic education, learning, assurance of learning, challenges, opportunities, and of course, quality and excellence. Both would be discussed out here. Let me go straight to what is an excellence in education. It says excellence can come only through if we understand education, we understand the educand, and we understand the educator. Educand here means the student. Unless we understand the student or the learner himself, we cannot deliver a quality education. Now, is excellence equivalent to quality? A lot of us could uh, uh, say yes, both are synonymous? No, they are not synonymous. As we go further, we get to know that excellence is a much wider term than the quality itself. So what is quality in education? Who decides what is quality in education and how to get quality in education? These are the three terms which we need to understand today. Any friends of ours who could say what is quality in education? I'll be happy to know from them. Organizers, can you please unmute them for some time, for 2 minutes at least, if I get to know what do you mean by quality of education? What's their view?
Hello. Hello. Just a moment. Just a moment. Hello. Sir, there is some issue with reference to mute. Please wait. Please wait.
Hello.
Hello. Sir, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
सर जरा पार्टिसिपंट्सला अनम्यूट करा ना आणि सरांना पण अनम्यूट करा. काहीतरी प्रॉब्लेम झालाय बघा सर. हॅलो सर, विल यू प्लीज अनम्यूट युअर सेल्फ. Hello.
Hello, sir. Sir has left.
No, sir is there. Sir is available.
Okay,
Sir, microphone is off.
Sir, your microphone is switched off. Hello.
Speaker microphone is switched off.
Hello.
Sir,
Just a
if
moment.
you are the
I have to
host,
talk-
then you
I have
can
to
unmute
talk.
to them.
Let me talk to him.
Sir, if you are host, then you can unmute to them.
But it is not working. I don't know what
In
happened.
Google Meet some limitation, so self mutation only allow.
Hello. Hello. Sir, your voice is not available. You have kept it on mute level. Sir, at the bottom low.
Okay, now it's okay.
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Yeah, now how about others who want to ask some questions and all? Hello. Yeah.
They can ask the question. Participants, if there are the questions, you can ask the question.
Okay. So if there are no answers for my question, let me also say what actually quality in education. Now, when you equate this word quality with product, we all get to know that quality means the one which meets purpose. Quality means the one which meets purpose. Whose purpose? The recipient's purpose. The in terms of product, we say the customers or the user's purpose. Now, if you equate the same thing in education, every student who comes to us has a purpose of his education. The purposes might vary, the objective of each student may be different from the other student. Therefore, there is no common platform on which we can, say quality in education. So if I am looking as an individual to improve my thinking, scientific thinking, and if I get that, that's a quality for me. Someone who's looking for a degree, well, if he earns that degree, it's a quality for him. Someone who's looking for a good placement, that's quality for him. And someone who's looking for himself, developing to qualify for a government job, or developing himself to qualify for higher education, yeah, that could be quality for him. So there is no common definition of quality in education. Something which meets your purpose is quality in my mind. People might differ in that. Different people might say different thing about quality. But when you look at a broader perspective in terms of a customer, in terms of a learner, in terms of your student, that's the quality mean. Who decides what is quality in education? It's obvious that there are no government bodies as such to decide what is quality for education. Like we say, the producer cannot decide what is quality for consumer, because quality is always a relative term, as I mentioned earlier, and quality is also got to do with the value which recipient gets vis-a-vis the money he spends for it. So the amount of time, effort, money spent by the recipient and the value he derived from it is a quality for him. So it's better left to the student. What is quality? Then you could come out with a question that then what's the role of a government? What's the role of the institutions in terms of quality? Yes, they have a great role to assure processes to provide what the student wants. Their role is to provide the minimum requirement, meeting certain standards. Now, meeting certain standards does not necessarily mean that it is a quality. So ultimately, the quality is to be determined by the student. So how to get quality in education is what we are going to talk about today in detail, because quality has numerous perspectives. So let's move the next in line. Excellence. So let's go how excellence differs. As I mentioned, excellence is a much more wider term in education. It is defined against a set of values and outcomes that students strive to achieve. Two important things: set of values and outcomes. See, unfortunately, in our education system for many, many years, we have never used the term called outcomes. The purpose of education has been more of about earning degrees. The outcomes were never defined for our education system, unfortunately. Yes, certain values were there in our mind, but they were again not defined. So if you predetermine certain outcomes and values for which the students needs to put efforts to achieve, and if you do that, that comes to be an excellence. The next one is pursuing teaching or learning as scholarly activities. That's on the part of the teacher. So the excellence would come from not only from students' perspective, teachers' perspective, institutions' perspective, all these, and even the societal perspective. As we go ahead, we'll get to know that what are those different aspects where excellence can be assured. So you see that when a faculty like you and me, they pursue teaching learning as a scholarly activities, it's tend to provide that excellence in education.
Sir, your slides are not visible.
My slides not visible?
Yeah. I think you have to once again share it.
Okay.
Please go to that.
Yeah, let me go to the sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, you will find the three options.
Yeah, present.
Select
Yeah.
your entire screen.
Yeah, I'm going out there.
Then
Yeah.
you have already kept your PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentation ready.
Sharing.
Kindly click that.
Yeah.
Now it is getting visible.
Okay.
Please go to your PowerPoint presentation, sir. Your screen is being shared. Now you go to your PowerPoint presentation. At the bottom most. At the bottom.
Yeah.
At the bottom.
Okay.
Most.
Is it okay now?
No, sir. Your PowerPoint presentation is not being shared. Your screen is shared.
Okay, let me look at. Screen is shared or presenting no. So what is not shared? This is a problem.
Please go to your PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, now it is getting shared. Yeah, it was.
It is shared?
It was. Now again, not available.
Sir, if you click the PPT, then only showing, otherwise it's again left.
Now it is being shared. You please see.
Here, but that's everything is not visible to me then. Okay.
Now
you can
go to your PowerPoint presentation.
It is visible now?
No. Your screen is shared, but PowerPoint presentation is not visible. Please go to PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, see, I clicked my PowerPoint presentation.
Sir,
It's
I
visible.
think you should stop sharing and share again.
Okay, I'll do that.
Sir, better
Let's
if you have
stop
three
sharing.
options, you can share only PPT, not a screen or not window.
Here, see, I now go to share, for example.
Or otherwise, sir, you open your presentation and put it on the taskbar and then share. Then just you have to open
Okay,
that.
I'll share Windows. I'll go to Windows.
No, sir, you don't go to
Okay.
window.
Okay.
You just
I
share
don't go to
the
Windows.
click, slide, and the PPT again open.
Go to entire screen. I go to entire screen. Okay. Or go to tab. Entire screen.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, if you select the entire screen, then again the issue. When you're clicking on the screen, then only screen. If you want to click on the PPT, then only PPT.
Sir, whether your PowerPoint presentation is open?
Yeah, open. It is open. That's what. Now, am I visible?
Sir, your screen is shared, sir. It is successfully shared. Now you click this. Yes, now it is perfect.
Okay, sir.
It's perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Slideshow mode, sir.
Control F5 only. F5.
F5.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's okay, sir.
It's okay, sir. It's visible, sir. No worries.
I can go to slide share.
I think don't disturb it. I think it's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. It exhibits a strong sense of commitment to the academic community, strong sense of commitment by each one of us, including your institution. Okay. Personal success in the classroom by the faculty day in and day out. Every day is a new match for a faculty, a new game for a faculty. So every day you got to have out that personal success. Next is most important, providing on regular basis constructive and objective feedback to students. This is where most of us in fact lack. Most of us, let me be very frank, we don't provide that objective and constructive feedback to our students. What we provide them is the marks obtained by them. But we never say what he was supposed to have done and what wrong he has done. Those details are not available to the student for his continuous and regular improvement. The next one, which is very, very important for you and me, is finding those ways of connecting students to each other. That's for independent learners. Group or peer learning. It doesn't happen. Last one is motivating the students for learning. Just think amount of effort a teacher have to put in to bring in that excellence in education. So we can all put ourselves, against each of these points that where do we stand if we are talking about excellence in education. Delivering an excellent lecture in the classroom is not an excellence in education. That's only one aspect, that is personal success in the classroom. But there are a number of other aspects which actually makes excellence in education. Now, any institution, whether it is a college or in a university, has a three educational objectives. Let's understand it so well, right? These three are knowledge dissemination, knowledge creation, and entrepreneurship and employability. That is the industry focus. Each one of us have to find our own pillar, which is the one where we want to focus. Let's be frank, knowledge creation, we are not there, we cannot be there, because knowledge creation requires huge investment and a long gestation period. So most of the private institutions or other government institutions which are not focused on research cannot be in this domain. Second one is knowledge dissemination. That is the teaching institutions we keep calling. Right, teaching institutions. As a private institution, you will have no space here as well, because government institutions provide this aspect, the knowledge dissemination, at the least cost. That's a dirt, I must say, it's a dirt cheap price for disseminating knowledge. And third one is entrepreneurship, employability. Yes, industry focus. That is where you could compete, you could do better, you can attract students, that creating students who are, or shaping students who are ready for employability. This is the space which we need to be. So if I had to put this three pillars on a continuum, you know, from lowest to the highest, you decide where you want to be. No, and let me also be, frank with you that they are not mutually exclusive. They are not mutually exclusive. It's a question of where do you put your emphasis. So if I'm putting almost about 70% of my effort, investment, and time on E&E, that is industry focus, I need to decide how much do I put on knowledge dissemination and how do I put on knowledge creation. E&E and knowledge dissemination could go hand in hand, because good amount of part of knowledge dissemination could be part of E&E. But if you look at ourselves, or try to introspect ourselves, you will find that almost about 80% of our time goes on into knowledge dissemination. That is classroom lecturing, completing courses, conducting examinations, and declaring results. So that's the reality of our education system today. So if that is the reality, then bringing those excellence and quality in education is a different proposition. So we all got to relook, reorient, reemphasize what we do. So if I had to relook at that, and we have as a university started relooking at it, is that we accepted gladly, see, that we are spending too much time on knowledge dissemination. So let's refocus our efforts, and we brought in E&E on a continuum towards on a higher side. That means we decided to focus almost 60% of time and effort on E&E. And for that particular purpose, we in fact connected ourselves to the industry by defining our psychomotor skills in each domain area. So let's just give a simple example. Say, taken engineering as one of the domain is computer science, right? So in computer science, we identified a number of profiles which the industry today provides. We spoke to those people that tell us what are those skills and knowledge you want or you need for this particular profile. So they give a list of skills needed and prerequisite knowledge for that. And then we defined each profile, saying that, okay, hey, for this profile, you need these four skills. And then for that particular, each of that skill, what is the prerequisite knowledge is required, that was defined. Then subsequently you said, okay, what are the methods which you will use to develop these skills? Further, we said, what are those methods that you will use to assess these skills have been developed or not? And finally, then we developed what you call steps for the particular skills to be learned. So the approach chart was developed for each skill. So we, in fact, I'm trying to say that we reoriented our university from a very high emphasis on knowledge dissemination to a high emphasis on entrepreneurship and employability. And let me be frank, this is doable. We all can do this. It's possible. Education, let's look at the tripolar process. As I mentioned earlier, you need these three important tripods if the excellence has to be brought in education. That is educand, educator, and social factors. Social factors is very, very important, because if you analyze any typical student, he spends almost about 40% of his in the society, whether it's his parents, his friends, his siblings, or is people living around, etc., etc. So social fabric of a student impacts his tendency towards learning, his efforts he's going to put in, and the appreciation which he has for the education. And that ultimately actually either demotivates or motivates him towards learning. So, and unfortunately, we do not have much control on this perspective. We do not have any control on that. And but then what to do it? You could at the most involve his parents in order to reorient them towards importance of education. That's it. But then other two aspects, that educator and educand, they are definitely controllables. Social factors are non-controllable for us. So the student would be required to be motivated quite a lot by faculty. And similarly, the educators have to be motivated by the leader, educational leader in the institution. Unless these three things are coherent, excellence in education is not possible. A tripod approach to education conceptualization is most important thing which we actually miss in our education system is why aspect. That is the purpose. Why? We all know what we are to teach and how have you to teach. But majority of us miss the main thing, that is why we have to teach. The purpose is not found. And you understand well that if the purpose is not defined or purpose of an activity is not found, then the outcomes of that activity would be subpar, or they would be substandard. Hence, for anyone, whether it's you and me as a teachers, or the learner, or anyone else, whatever one engages in an activity, the first important thing is, let's find the purpose. Why are we doing what we are doing? We don't answer that why, or if we don't raise that why, as I mentioned earlier, it would be a substandard or a below par performance. What? That is curriculum. Today, it's not a big deal. You could find people who can help you to develop the curriculum. You could find numerous, access to numerous universities to find the curriculum. You can take the help of an industry to find a curriculum. Okay. And how to deliver is another important thing. See, like today, it is very difficult to differentiate on terms of curriculum. You could say my curriculum is most updated, more industry focused. People can get that done. But the differentiation would only come from how do you deliver your curriculum. That's an andragogy. That means how do you in fact make people learn. That will define you how you are different from others. The curriculum per se doesn't have much a differentiating factor as on today. Let's look at and understand what education is. For most of us, education means teaching. That is a content delivery. It's been considered as earning of degrees. That's from the student's perspective. And from institution's perspective, that's conducting exams and declaring results. Unfortunately, learning is missed in the current education system. Hope for last 2 years, we've been talking more about learning. So maybe over a period of time, you'll find the learning comes back into the focus and the teaching or the degree is being given a less emphasis or a less importance. In fact, education has a much more wider purpose. That is what it prepares us for lifelong learning. Okay. These 3 or 4 years of education a student undergoes, it's not about learning those particular courses which he has. It's all about learning how to learn in the future. That's one of the purposes. Then also develop ability in him to deal with real life challenges. And unless that has been developed, the education which you achieve in the college is of no use to us. The degree will be of irrelevance unless we use it for the purposes of dealing with real life challenges which we'll face as a student gets into his life from there onwards. Develop professional competency. That is, at the end of his program, he or she must be able to do things related to his chosen career. Okay, we may not, we may not have a student which is with a very high competency, but yes, the minimum aspect, at least what do you call the lowest level of awareness level is there in a student how to do things. And finally, we say, okay, an education should make a better human. That's the purpose of education. Education has been defined very well by Einstein. What he says that education is what is left behind with the student after he has or she has forgotten all that she wrote in an examination. Then you could very well say, then what is left behind? Only thing that is left behind is what he has experienced or what he did during his times. Most of us forget the content after about 2 months. So the content cannot last with us. What will last with us is what we experienced during those 4 years of our life or 3 years of our life in the college. Now, that means many of us or most of our students don't even know why do they come to the college. If you ask them, they'll say, okay, I'm here to earn my degree. I'm here to pass those examinations. But the purpose of coming to the college is much, much wider. If you look at today's era where AdTech trying to dominate the entire education space, and they are driving home with lots of marketing efforts. But then one need to realize that online learning cannot help us learn those things which would be required in real life. A student supposed to come to the college to gain that confidence, which is not available anywhere, whether online or at home. It's only the college, the environment in the college, which actually makes him a confident person. He cannot build that networks, whether it's with his on classmates, superiors, subordinates, faculty members, or people in the industry. You cannot develop those software skills, which we call people skills, because here in a college, he gets an opportunity to deal with, interact with people from different walks of life, from different regions, from different languages, different areas, which is not possible. That kind of environment is not available out there. And that's one of the reasons why you need to emphasize to your students that coming to the college, being in the classroom is important, not just because you are exposed to the contents of the subject, but for these reasons. No one makes him to learn how to question things. It's only the classroom environment which actually makes him to learn to answer the questions and even raise questions. And these are the very things which he would be required to do while he is on the job. And when I say on the job, it could be serving an organization, or he might be employing somebody else. One need to learn to question. And one also need to learn different kinds of questions. Not just yes and no answers or a single word correct answers. He needs to learn how to have those subjective questions. And now you could figure out what is left with you after your exams. And that's, you can convince your student why he needs to be regular in the college. Let's look at the word meaning of education. This word comes from two Latin words, educare and educio. What exactly that means? Educare means to train or to mold. Educio means to draw out or lead out. It doesn't talk anywhere about the content. To train. To train means to, change certain things in a person. To develop a new behavior. That's the meaning of train, or to mold means to change again. Now, by listening a content in the classroom, no one actually changes. Yes, one can retain if we use proper methodology, but definitely it doesn't get trained. Educia means to draw out or lead out means what? Draw out the potential of a person. Every one of us, irrespective of the background, the student has a certain potential. That potential has to be drawn out. And that can only be done through education. Now you compare. Rather, let's compare ourselves. What we do in the classroom, or what the institutions do, and what actually the meaning of education is. Where do we stand and what is the gap? If there is a gap, definitely in my mind there is a gap. Our role is to fill that gap. Only then the excellence in education can happen, not otherwise. If we continue to do same thing over a period of time and we expect different results, I think there is something wrong with us. If the people in the leadership positions expect their institutions to change, they need to change what we are doing and how we are doing. Unless we change that, unless we understand the meaning of education and try to follow what is required to actually be aligned to the meaning of education, things will stand wherever they are, however efforts we might put. I want to go a step ahead. Holistic education. Holistic education is what most of us talk about. Holistic education means the one which seeks to engage all aspects of the learner. Now, what are those all aspects? Your mind, your heart, and your body. We popularly known as 3 H's: heart, head, and hand. When I say head, it deals with your thinking. That is cognitive aspect. When I say heart, it deals with your people skills. When I say hand, it deals with your ability to do things. That is skills, psychomotor skills. So unless otherwise an education takes care of all these 3, I won't call that an education incomplete. That means we are not developing a person holistically. Now, just look at what we are doing today. If I give an example, in my mind, only the one aspect of these 3 has been dealt with, that is a head, and that too at a very lower level. That is, our cognitive abilities are developed at a lower level of thinking. You know, there are 2 levels of thinking: higher order and lower order. In lower order, it's all about meaning, is a knowledge perspective. So we provide knowledge to the learners. But what he must do with that knowledge, how should he process that knowledge for a higher order thinking, is not been dealt. Yeah, we might subconsciously taking aspect of this while we are in the classroom. Some of us as teachers, we do make them apply, we do make them to analyze, but that's not done consciously. That is not defined. We do not measure that, unfortunately. And then we don't give a feedback to the student that, hey, this is where you lag. In fact, you are great in processing information in terms of analyzing, but you are not able to take a decision. You do not know how to compare the 2 or 3 important aspects, or 2 or 3 important alternatives, and then decide one. You lack there, so you can develop in this particular. So that kind of exercise is not done. So ultimately, I'm trying to say that the first aspect, that head, is most used, but only the lower level of thinking is emphasized in the classrooms. So if you're looking for excellence in higher education, first thing, correct that the first aspect, that is head, that is cognitive, bring in higher order thinking as well in our classrooms in education. The entire aspect of education, higher order thinking has to be brought out. Number 1. Number 2, include that heart, that is your people skills. Because when it comes to the grind, that is when a person faces adversity, the people skill will help him to the last core, I must say. You might have best of the things, but if you do not know how to face a failure, you will not be able to succeed in life. If you don't recognize the aspect that whatever may happen, one should not give up, you will not be able to succeed. So there are so many aspects of people, heart, soul, spirit. If they are not dealt with, the success won't come easily. And the final one is your hand. We all need to make our students to develop that ability to do, at least at I must say introductory level, or at least what we call is the first level. The rest of the things he will learn as he gets into the real life. So it's the purpose of holistic education, not only prepare them for academic success, but make them learn to deal with realities of life, develop healthy relationships, social responsibility, and compassion, etc. So unless these are developed, we are not creating a perfect human. We are, let me put, not perfect, but a balanced human or in a holistic way. Some of that intelligences which I will mention is spiritual intelligence, social, emotional, cognitive, that's academic part of us, or physical intelligence. Again, the last one, that's physical intelligence, has also been neglected in our world of education today. And you'll realize that unless physically we are fit, all other intelligences are of no use. So how to engage students physically within and outside the college? Our education system must bring that aspect. The same thing which I'm going to putting it another way, those 4 important components of holistic education. Let's look at, when you're talking about holistic education, what is the difference between knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom? A lot of us, in fact, use these 3 words synonymously. Some of do understand, but not much. Our education system tends to further knowledge and content, pay little attention to intelligence, and has eradicated wisdom entirely over a period of time. What has been reasons over a period of time? There are a number of them. Let's not get into those details because that's beyond our discussion today. But definitely there has been reasons. Knowledge is about knowing or having a piece of information. And we all know that piece of information changes depending upon time, place, and it should continue to do that. So then what is intelligence? Intelligence is one's ability to apply that knowledge for a purpose. That is intelligence. Yeah, you do have a knowledge, you do have an information, but what you do with that information need to have that intelligence. Now, wisdom. Wisdom is which knowledge to use when. That is your wisdom. So when you are faced with a difficulty, you have enough knowledge to come out, but then what is that ability one should be able to use it? Now, when you are faced with an adversity on your job, what you must do? Whatever knowledge you have gathered over a period of time, you know how to apply, but unfortunately, you don't know which one to apply when. Now, if you don't apply that appropriate knowledge at the right time, you will not be able to succeed. Now, wisdom and intelligence comes with practice. So as you keep putting your knowledge into practice, you develop a better intelligence, right? And when you have a better intelligence and start you taking decisions and start creating those alternatives and choose an appropriate alternative, you start using your wisdom. And in every time, every place, we would require our wisdom to be used. Yeah, you could say it in a different way. You must have heard all these IQs, EQs, SQs, CQs, AQs, SQs, and CQs, etc., etc. Courage constant, confidence constant, adversity and adaptability constant. How these constants over a period of time have moved. The research has proved that it's not the most intelligent who succeed in life. You need the other cues, all of them. In recent times, you must have heard a lot of youth with great IQ could not prolong their life because they had a poor PQ, that is physical quotient. Large number of people today at the age of 30, 40 are struck with the heart ailments because of various other reasons. It could be poor EQ or SQ or AQ. They are not able to meet the adversity. They are not able to adapt to the different situations. They don't give time to the social gatherings or social things. Don't spend good amount of time in entertaining themselves. They don't know how to control their emotions. So if one has to, balance one's life and prolongs one's success, we need to have all these quotient developed in oneself. And that is where the holistic education plays a great role. Now let me move from defining holistic education to the word called learning. The biggest thing about learning is it's all about change. And that change happening as a result of the experience which you have had and increase the potential for improved performance and future learning. So change cannot happen unless you have experienced certain things, unless you have done it your own self. And this change can happen at 3 different levels. That is your, knowledge, attitude, or behavior. That is KSA, which is popularly known as. And that KSA actually makes you an holistic person. So your and my approach should be about creating that experience inside and outside the classroom. When I say inside and outside, because today, if you look at, it's not about lesson planning. Most of us have the habit of developing lesson plans. No, I propose a learning plan is to be created. And learning happens both within and outside the classroom. So you need to engage your students outside the classroom also. How do you engage? You could do it through additional readings, ask them to do additional readings, ask them to do an assignment, ask them to do a project, ask them to do an independent learning or a group learning, that is a peer learning, whatever ways you find is appropriate for that particular day's content. But the emphasis should be let the learning continue not only in the classroom, but beyond the classroom. So this is all about learning process, how learning happens. You acquire something new, you process that, and you first process at lower level, then the higher level, and then you practice that. That is how the change happens. That is how the learning actually happens. Unless you come to the last level, that is behavior level, I think learning wouldn't be complete. So whatever new your student, heard from you or new which has acquired, and if that newness is kept to him without further processing, then he's likely to forget it very fast. So my and your role is whatever new knowledge is acquired, let him process further, both at a higher level and the lower level. Having done it at a higher level, make him do or make him practice or make him perform. And that would actually lead to the learning. There are 5 stages of learning, that is gaining your knowledge or a new skill, as indicated by Martin Broadwell in 1969. Also, I'd like to give you a piece of information. Most of us actually are not conversant with the various frameworks, various models which have been given by well-known educationists. And also further, let me say that most of these models and frameworks have been prior to 2000. There have been very less models of well-known models past 2000. Okay, so one of them is Broadwell. The rest of the models I would deal in my next lecture. So where does the learning start? Learning starts from a very first stage, that is unconscious incompetence. Unconscious incompetence is a state where a student doesn't know whether he doesn't know. That's the state of ignorance. No idea about what to do and how to do it. That's the first stage, unconscious incompetence. So anything new to which we are exposed, we are in this state of unconscious incompetence. And this is true for all of us. Even if you remember your first day of in the classroom when you were supposed to teach our students, we actually begin from this stage. From there, we move to conscious incompetence. That is, I know that I don't know. Therefore, I want to improve. So let the student be understood that these are the things which he does not know and he needs to improve on that. He needs to put an effort on that. That is the second stage. So first day when he comes to the class, he has no idea about anything. That is your and my role to let him realize that these are the things which he does not know. He is supposed to know, and he need to put in the efforts to improve it. The third stage is conscious competence. This is where the first benefit of learning will start showing up. That is, I know how to do it, but I have to concentrate on my task. So that means he has known how to do it, but he has to put in practice. You know, if you go back to the definition of learning, where I said, okay, when he knows certain thing, he needs to process that information to higher order, and then he needs to put in practice. He has to bring it in an action, and that this is where the third stage is. So he has to bring in his learning to the action level. Though he would make mistakes, but with constant involvement and practice, he would get it perfected. That's where the next stage is, unconscious competence. I can do it with ease and habitually. You know, it's like when you learn cycling. Once you learn cycling, you can do it with ease, not an issue. You know, so you start getting that perfection. You start getting the mastery over the given skill, and you might start finding new ways of doing it. Okay, you must learn to cycle leaving your hands free, or you must start taking those performing those stunts. That is because of your more and more practice. And then you move to the last stage. That is, now you can explain, you can train others, you can do things others, and you can find different ways of doing it. So that's called reflective ability over other states. And that's where the most of the teachers are. We as teachers got to be at this last stage. And probably bring our students to the third stage. I know you cannot take it to the fourth stage because it requires huge amount of practice. So make sure that we first make our habits, and then our habits actually makes us. An expert is anything but a beginner at some time. So our role here, the role of education is to develop an habit in a student of learning, whether learning the content or learning the skill. And that habit then over a period of time will make an expert in him. We cannot make expert our students, no way. We can only bring him to the C level, where in his life he would perfect that art through trial and error, put in more and more efforts and involve himself in doing better. Further in learning, see, we can realize now at this stage what we are doing and what learning was all about. Centuries back, these both guys have said that if you want me to understand, please let me do it. If you want me to learn, involve me. Now, both these things have, in the present context, we have in fact forgotten. They are not part of our entire learning process because we are not in learning process. We are in fact in a teaching process. So since we are in a teaching process, we don't make our students to do. We don't involve them in learning. So most of our efforts are on hearing. We're telling. But telling is not learning. In fact, we have equated telling is equal to learning. Not at all. That's not true. And Singh years back said that purpose of learning is to develop thinking. And that is also in the beginning it said the purpose of education is to develop one's thinking and the ability to do. And further it with holistic education. There are two broad approaches to education as of now. One is called input-based education, another is called outcome-based education. Most of us been through to this aspect called input-based education, and we continue to be that. Institutions going for NAC accreditation are trying to move to the OBE, but in reality, we still continue to be in IBE mode, unfortunately. The focus is still on content. The focus is still on degree. The focus is still on memory. So let's change to the outcome-based education, which is a learners-focused and student-centered and outcomes-oriented. It's a design down and deliver up model. I'm sure the next decade or so would be quite exciting for our education system, where a lot of changes would happen for the better. Institutions like ours are trying to do this. I know it is a difficult proposition. We are, however, put the OB in place, but bringing the real results will take time because the entire faculty members have to think alike, and it takes time for all to think alike. Aligning the whole process is a major challenge as of now. I'll take 5 minutes break for each one of us, and then we'll restart at 12:40.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
12:40.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Rani, is it going well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excellent. Excellent, sir. We are very happy. Yes, sir.
Okay, and meanwhile, you can ask them if they have certain questions, whatever we discussed.
Yes,
We
sir.
can spend some time
Sure.
on it, right?
All the respected faculty members, if you have any questions, you please write those questions in the chat box. Those questions may help us to take the discussions ahead. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
अच्छा आए अभी है क्या? अच्छा ओके ठीक हेलो
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
could we
Yes,
start?
yes, sir. We can start.
Any questions from the audience?
No.
Okay.
No questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I
so-
have one question. I wrote in the chat box.
Hello.
Have you written some question? Mr.
Yeah.
Ajit Joshi says how to control or restricted such activities apart from what we have rules and policies. This is when what
No, it's relevant to the holistic education. That
Professor
means
Ajit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah. Can you speak your question again?
Professor Ajit.
Yeah.
Can I,
Yeah, please go ahead.
sir? How can control such kind of activity because we have already rules and regulation policies, but now either organization, either private, either government, they already diluted the rules and regulation policy by directly, indirectly. So how can control them? Because now we have everyone facing the problem, same things, and know everything. But how can minimize? Government also doing something.
But the question is not understood, in fact. I mean, like policies, whether it's the government has controlled certain things or the institutions have controlled certain things.
Yes, sir. Like this, whatever technical courses like AICT, PCI, the body have some regulation and monitoring from year to year. But
The
in
contents
UGC,
are coming up.
yeah, but in UGC and other, they not have any control guidelines and evaluations for yearly by themselves. They, if the institute organization they apply, then only they will go to the whatever the charge and then visit it and then give some instructions. But after that, the whatever the private organization or other institute, they will not fulfill them. Just the distribute this degree, and
No,
then balance
that's
them.
what we are saying. See, the issue is not with an individual, whether it is on a faculty or the institutions or the regulatory bodies or students. It's the whole system I'm talking about. The entire process has to reorient. See, the UGC or AICT cannot stop you making a providing a quality education. See, whatever their rules may be, whatever their regulations may be, in spite or despite of that, no one stops us, motivating our students. No one stops us giving them, learning. As I defined what learning is, no one stops us providing them skills. No one stops us from giving them an appropriate feedback. I mean, what the AICT and UGC is controlling is about a certain amount of minimum number of courses to be given. That's it. Actually, the whole emphasis is about learning, where they don't have any role. In terms of learning, these bodies do not have any role. In terms of learning, it's a teacher who has a big role to make it. And of course, institutions themselves to facilitate this. So it is, pointless to provide any blame on AICT or UGC. It's we, you and me who are to be reorienting towards learning. All these people might facilitate us. They all might say, okay, hey, apply outcome-based education. But how it is actually applied depends upon us only. Nobody else.
That is true, sir. But as a responsible, if you are not controlling whatever the have rules and regulation, they have the institute organization not following, fulfill them. They have to stop. They have to restrict it, or maybe the disqualify and reveal the whatever the given freedom to them. Then only have to, because the number of organization institute is open day by day in every city, college, everywhere, in the village, everywhere. Now we don't maintain that whatever the quality, they just want to just make like a profit business. Now become as a truly said it is become a business. So how can we then that whatever the object and whatever the mission, vision and wisdom?
See, let's take an example of any product company. Say, let's talk about clothing companies. Clothing companies provide you highly branded, normal, and then clothes are even available at the street level also at a very lower cost, isn't it? Similarly, the level of education is provided in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai is not possible to be provided at a village level because of number of regions. But people in the village also likes to be educated, no? They also want certain qualifications. The problem is the kind of resources available to us and the intentions of the people. Unless these two things are provided, I mean, this is a long struggle, as I mentioned earlier. We have started changing, but it's a long journey for us. For the last 75 years, if you recall and talk to your grandfather, he would say he was taught in the same way as you are teaching today. There has been no change. The education sector has been most stagnant All other sectors have moved leaps and bounds. They have progressed, but not education sector. It's now for last 2 years we've been talking about change. We've been talking about learning. We have been talking about outcomes. We have been talking about quality. I know it wasn't there. It's not that our education system is so bad. If that was the case, then we wouldn't been having so many, quality people across the globe heading large multinational companies. Yes, our education system as such has been quite rich, but the only thing that has happened is it's not standardized. Number one, it's it's not defined. The processes are not defined. So whatever people you see, they are all a very small part of the whole thing, where they have been able to do it by themselves, wherein probably the system or a process has not helped them much. And that happens anywhere, everywhere. So there's a lot of things to be done at this level. Now let's move on to the assurance of learning. What is assurance of learning? How it is different from learning? It's a systematic process where we demonstrate that degree program learning goals have been met. That means we first define what are learning goals or learning objectives or learning outcomes. You see, there is always a difference between goals, objectives, and outcomes. Goals are a broader term. It is more subjective in nature. Objectives are very specific and they are student perspective. They have a student perspective. Sorry, they have a teacher perspective. They are from teacher's perspective. So when a teacher defines learning objectives, he defines for himself. That is what he wants the students to learn. When I say learning outcomes, this is from student perspective, which means what at the end of the program the student would have learned. So there is a difference, minor difference between these three terms one needs to understand. Learning goals, learning objectives, and learning outcomes. So when I say learning outcomes, I'm saying that, hey, at the end of the entire program or entire course duration, what the student would have learned. When I say learning objective, I say what a teacher would like the student to learn, and learning goals are much broader. They are not specific. Next one is determining and revising degree programs or learning goals. That means if you have not met the learning goals, then what are the reasons you have not? What revision is required that you undertake in this process? You redesign and improve the curricula and delivery, and then close that particular gap. It's a very systematic process. You predefine it, what the students would learn. You say, okay, at the end of this 2 years program, you would develop these skills and you would know these things. Okay, and then you have the entire process laid for it. So when you say entire process, the way learning happens in the classroom is well defined. The assessment of learning is well defined. And after the assessment, the review and feedback is also well defined. And based upon that review and feedback, you actually modify each of these. I'll show you at the end of my session what that entire process is all about in a figure. Okay. Curriculum alignment is strongly related to your assurance of learning process. Curriculum alignment. Curriculum alignment means your learning outcomes, your pedagogical aspects, your assessments strategy, your review and feedback. They all are aligned to learning outcomes. Learning goals are mapped and focus on common learning experience. And here learning matters the most. Nothing else matters. How it is taught is not important. What is taught is what has been learned. Okay. It is all about what will be our students be like when they graduate. These are some of the questions which we need to answer or complete the program. What will our students learn in our program? How will they learn it? How will we know that they have learned it or not? And what will we do if they have not learned it? Look at these four important things. That means we will decide what our students will learn when they complete our program. Then we decide how they will learn. Then we say, how would we know that they have learned? Is there any process, any system which we have developed to measure that learning? And how objective that measurement is? And if we get to know that they have not learned what we wanted them to learn, what will we doing about it? So these four aspects have been perfectly taken care in assurance of learning. Why is it necessary to have this assurance of learning thing? One, improvement in student learning. It improves quality of graduates. So you can always, rather than giving that certificate of degree, saying that he has qualified the curriculum, etc., you're saying, okay, my students have learned this. No institution today gives you any certificate to anyone that my students have learned this or they are capable of doing this. What we actually provide is a degree of or a certificate for having completed successfully certain number of courses. This is both a promise of learning and a proof of learning. That means when a student enters in the college, we say we provide you or we give you this promise that you will learn this. And then when he goes out of the college, we also give him proof, hey, this is what you have learned. And there's a huge amount of transparency in learning process. And there is an accountability on the part of the institution, teachers, and the student himself. This is the major thing of learning, assurance of learning. Teacher and learning, let's accept the fact that telling is not learning at all. Also accept the fact that let's not be a sage on the stage. That is, delivering sermons or preaching on the stage is of no use to the student. But let's be a guide on the side. Help the students, guide him, make him independent learner. And let's balance between content and doing if you really want a learner to be of some use to the society. That's the balance between content and doing has to be brought by the teacher. And I emphasize these four important statements which are put on your screen, we must all keep in our head all the time when we are in the classroom or outside the classroom. Nobody else will do this, I tell you. No regulatory body, no institution, no academic leader will do this. This is we as the teachers have to do it. Nobody, see, as a teacher, I have so much freedom in the classroom. Nobody can tell me what to do. It's me, my conscience. That allows me to do what I want to do. It's good for the students. And we must accept the fact that speaking, lecturing, telling is of no relevance today. Today's student, in fact, has a small, very, very small, attention period. Not more than 10 minutes. You can't. And we are not realized as faculty members. And that is the reason why, in fact, we have lost our relevance and reverence in the classroom in front of the students. Students today consider it irrelevant, and they have a lot of high irreverence for us simply because the way and what we teach them. Unless we change the way of, teaching them, or let me put it, the way they learn, unless that is changed, we will not be able to earn our respect in the classroom. That is one of the reasons why large number of students have been found inattentive in the classroom or engaging in different activities. So who and what is the focus of our efforts? Again, those things, content or is the student who is our focus? Unfortunately, content has become a focus of our content. I want to complete my course. Even my director also asked me, my principal also asked me, hey, how much percentage of course content is left to be completed? Why you're not been able to complete that content? And we also talk about mera course itna ho gaya, mera course itna baki hai, etc., etc. Again, is it the focus exams, marks, or learning? Where is the focus? Unfortunately, exams and marks, not learning. Is change in behavior or promotion to the next class? Change in behavior means the learning or promoting to the next class from first year to second year to third year. What is the issue? Now let's look at what are those challenges which actually we all are facing. We have not been able to figure out why should we teach. First challenge. Are we teaching for completing the course or making them to learn? Also, not able to figure out what we teach. Is it all about content or it's all about skills or a balance between that? Each content, each skill would need a different way of learning, different methods. So the next challenge is how should we teach? And unfortunately, for years and years, we've been doing only one method, that is lecturing. Irrespective of the nature of the course or nature of the content or the level at which we must be teaching. It's all been teaching, teaching, and preaching. Next is, at what pace should we teach? We need to realize that in a given class, you do not have one type of student or common type of student. Some students learn fast, some learn slow, some learn very slow. So determining a pace is again is determined scientifically. Realizing that each student is different. Do we know who we are teaching? That means, do we understand all our students? Have we spent 5 to 10 minutes with each student to understand him or her? How he learns best? What aspect he wants to learn? When and where should we teach? Should we teach only in the classrooms? Should learning happen only in the classroom? Should we teach for about 6-7 hours? Or just 4 hours is good enough? Should we teach all the 6 days of a week? Can't learning happens near the workplace? How should we assess? And what are you trying to assess? Is it aligned to something? What are the best methods to teach? Should we teach or they should learn? This is still a debate. Should we instruct them or guide them? Are they really interested what we are in fact trying to teach them in the classroom? Are they learning? How to assure they're learning? Do you know what they want? We have parents who are marks focused. My son got 99%, my son got 95%, my son got 75%. None of the parent talks about what my son learned or my daughter learned. It's a big challenge to the education fraternity. The student want degree. The faculty wants to deliver content, and institutions wants to conduct exam and declare results, and then they take a pride that we had 90% only first class or so many. But what is the meaning of that? These are some of those major challenges the education system faces. This is only at a micro level. Let me tell you, there are a number of challenges at macro level which one of our faculty was trying to discuss with me. I'm not touching them. This is at the classroom and at the institution level, more related to the faculty. If these challenges are taken care, I think we would start improving our education. Those broader aspects can happen because they may be beyond our control, but these are under our control. We can easily do this. What is the answer? What is the one common thing among all these questions? No single word or yes, no answer. See, none of us can say it in a firm way that this is an answer, because there are multiple answers and multiple ways to take care of this. The answers are based on scientific methods or application of science. There has to be reasons behind each of those questions. Anything, Oscar Wilde long back said, anything worth learning can't be taught, or nothing worth learning can be taught. This means that you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. That is for sure. So unless a student is involved in the whole process, learning cannot happen. We might teach them, we might give them, award them degrees, but learning would be missing from the scene. So that's what I've been emphasizing. Involve our students, motivate our students in the learning process. Unless that is done, it will be an unfortunate part that learning would miss. If you are aware about taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, I think that will help to quite a good level. It talks about 3 domains. It's again related to that holistic education, cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Those 3 hats which we discussed. Yeah, creating, evaluating is there are first 2 levels relates to lower level, and 4 upper ones are to the higher level. So as a faculty, you realize where do we stand in our classroom interaction with our students. And my advice is to let's move upward. Spend more time towards applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating in the classrooms and outside the classrooms. Unless that happens, excellence cannot come. I'll skip them. There are 4 levels of education or forms of education, if you have heard about: factual, conceptual, procedural, metacognitive. Unfortunately, as a current system of education is stuck at the first level, that is factual level. Factual level means the first level of knowledge, lower level of learning. Facts. We all state facts, and students also write in our exam answer sheets facts only. And we know that facts can change. And facts can be processed. The facts are nothing beyond. So facts can only be remembered. And all our education is stuck on this level. Second level is the conceptual level. That's able to relate one fact to another, one domain to another. We all should realize that no problem in this world is isolated in nature, which means a problem is always combination of domains. No problem relates to any specific domain in the society. So hence, any learner, any student needs to have that multidisciplinary approach if he wants to solve the problems. One needs to relate, say, the knowledge of physics with the knowledge of computers, with the knowledge of electronics. A couple of months back, I was interviewing a physics teacher, and I happened to ask him a question saying that, okay, tell me, what would you tell in your classroom to a student who is learning electronics, that how physics knowledge would help him in his domain? I wasn't able to get an answer to that question, a satisfactory answer from the professor and a senior person. Similarly, as another mathematics teacher, that how his knowledge of mathematics would help a student to solve the problems of electrical engineering. Unable to find an answer. So, in fact, we all are providing knowledge in silos. So physics guy is giving entire physics to him, chemistry, and you see electronics. They aren't able to, coherently bring it together and relate to a problem. Just give an example to you all. Suppose if you want to solve the problems of environment today, you need to understand the environmental science itself, needs to understand and apply computers, management, chemistry, economics, and of course administration. These are some of those, and of course geography, plants, that is your other aspects of plant knowledge. So if one has to look at, there need 7 to 8 people to solve one problem. First time, so many years in education, first time one of the lady came up for doing her PhD. And I was so happy about that. Someone who is today talking about what one wants to do. Most of us say, I want to do a PhD in physics, I want to do a PhD in this, I want to do a PhD in this. And it's very specific domain area. This lady came up that I want to do a PhD in order to solve the environmental problems. You tell me, how would you help me? And we being academicians who have been put into silos right from our childhood learning, it made me to think, how should I help that girl? Your people down below will not accept. They will say, where would he do, whether she has done these courses, she doesn't belong to my domain, she doesn't belong to my domain. It is a big problem. I said, okay, it doesn't matter which department she will do. The problem is about she wants to solve a problem faced by the society, and we all have to find a way out. And we helped her. So if you want to do, you can get out of all this mess and help. But if you want to remain in silos, then there are no answers to all these questions. So that's where we need to develop the conceptual knowledge, relating the concepts with other concepts, domains with other domains, finding what are the impacts of those, how they affect each other, why, finding those answers called whys, Why this exists, why it doesn't exist. So we got to move that pure word called what, beyond what. Start finding answers to why. And then only we will be able to get to the higher order thinking. And the next level is procedural. Procedural means how aspect of learning. Procedures, that means can a student apply his knowledge in steps? So if you teach somebody, say, programming a particular, using a particular language, can this person undertake a real life problem and start applying that knowledge of his to solve that problem? That's the procedural knowledge. Every domain, every course, course, when I say course means subject, would have some procedures in it, some procedural knowledge in it. Okay. That means how to do things. The last one is metacognitive. This is, of course, the ultimate knowledge. One questioning one's own knowledge, that knowledge about the knowledge. Do you know what you do not know? Do you know what you know? The day we start recognizing how much do we know and how much we do not know, we would start updating our own knowledge. We will start becoming self-learners. And I don't expect students reaching to that level, but of course, we as faculty members should rise up to that level. Start recognizing what we don't know and what we lack and what we should know. We wouldn't need any more guidance from anybody the day we reach it. And to get to that procedural level, we have as a university introduced a system wherein each faculty member is supposed to go to the relevant industry and learn the practice part of its profession. So if I'm an electrical faculty member, I have to go to an industry where electrical applications happen and spend at least about 6 weeks with that particular place. And that would help me to relate my knowledge to the real life. And then I'll be able to provide much better guidance to my students. Now, learners, what I as a faculty must do, first thing is I need to size up to the learner. Sizing up to the learner means I need to understand him, his requirements, and how does he learn, what are his issues, etc., etc. My focus would be all about learner, not the content. Content would follow. I should know what he or she has not understood, or what he or she is capable of doing it, why he or she is not doing it. My orientation should be towards the learner, and I need to adapt to the learner. This is all what is called learner focus. I don't know how much time do we actually spend in doing this. Let's go into the context of a student. Because unless you understand him or her, we will not be able to adapt to him. We will not be able to bring in the required changes. We must understand that students differ in terms of education. Each student has his own educational objectives. They have their unique background. They have the unique learning styles. Their pace of learning differ. There is a knowledge gap. They have priorities in life, and they have different motivations in life as well as in knowledge domain. So these are the kind of differences which exist among students. How come on the earth we apply a common approach? We cannot, and if we apply that, we will not succeed. That's why I keep, whenever I do these workshops, I keep, emphasizing on my, faculty members that, hey, you change your style of interaction in the classroom every 10 to 15 minutes. Your learning plan should have a definite way of doing things in the classroom. You got to decide how much time you got to speak in the classroom and how much time you will make them to speak, how much time for them to actually engage in activities, involve them in activities, what kind of questions you will engage them, how would you engage them in discussion, etc., etc. A coffee learn. Yeah. Okay. So the day we realize these differences, we would bound to change ourselves. If we have that tendency to generalize the students, I think we will never be able to change ourselves. This is another one. What do they want from the education? Some people want only degrees. Some are there to help to get their job. Some are there to develop their abilities and skills to cope up with the life challenges. Some are there to gain knowledge for self-development. Some are there just for the fun, action, and musty. And there may be some others. These are some of our assumptions about others. What do they want from education? Unfortunately, we do not have much research conducted in our country on education. Unfortunately, majority of our research is related to domain areas. I don't exactly know the background of all of participants, but I assume that most of them are from non-education. Hence, you realize yourself how much time did you ever give to conducting a research on education domain? How much time did you give in learning yourself how to learn or how students learn? Or how much time did we in fact give in learning the education domain? Not much. Hence, we cannot expect ourselves to have enough understanding of how education happens. Our assumptions about this, see, these are some of other assumptions what we carry about students. It's their responsibility to learn. Arey Baba, nahi, aisa nahi hota hai. It's not their responsibility. We also have accountability towards their learning. They are here to learn. That's our assumption. Since they pay, they must learn. वो अच्छी मोटी फीस देते हैं, इसलिए उनको सीखना चाहिए. Not true. Their only thing to do is to learn. What else they have? Their parents are paying them for them, so their duty is to learn. They read a lot and prepare well before coming to the class. I don't think that's correct. They are interested in learning. Not many of them. So we got to relook at these assumptions and activate ourselves that we have a lot of job towards them to motivate them to learn, to do a lot of explaining to them that learning matters most and learning cannot happen without their efforts put in. And we would also see these degrees would not help them in their rest of the career life. What would help is what they have learned. There is a difference between teaching children and adults. Unfortunately, over a period of time, pedagogy has been one word which has been in higher education mostly misused. Pedagogy is all about children learning. Andragogy, which is a word which we never use, and heutagogy. They differ from each other. The heutagogy is more to do with independent learning at a master, at PhD level there, when you are engaged into research where you need at least guidance from your guide or your seniors. Andragogy, we need a lot of involvement and guidance from faculty. Pedagogy is more of an hand-holding. How do universities gain their competitive advantage? As I mentioned in the beginning, that it's not the curriculum which will actually make us different from others. It's the way we deliver our curriculum which will make us unique or give us a competitive advantage. The first important thing is the way we deliver our curriculum. The way we deliver our curriculum. How do we deliver? Number one, create a unique learning experience. It's a learning experience which is important, which will actually make your student to learn. That means through what all activities a student goes through in the entire college life. It's not about, lab experiments alone. It's about anything and everything. See, you have these 4 types of activities in the, any college. That is called curricular activities, co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, and extramural activities. So all these 4 types of activities put together actually creates a learning experience. So when you create this learning experience, and this is to be well defined, it is not something which would happen. No, it has to be very well defined, standardized, and placed in the entire curriculum. And when you put these 4 activities, curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular, and extramural, they relate to, again, those holistic education. I must share with you. And you need to determine the time period for each of these. Put them on the continuum and decide, hey, how much time you're going to put to each of this. And why are you doing it? I mean, that's, I've been emphasizing in the beginning also. Unless we find that why, we will not be able to create that holistic educational experience in the institution. The second one is introduce action learning. What is this action learning? Action learning, very important. A lot of institutions, especially management institutions, have been found to introduce this term called action learning in their curricula. What do you do? In fact, action learning happens when you put your students to undertake certain projects, real life projects, right? So when you undertake that real life projects, bring that learning back to the institution when the project their students are undertaking, bring back that learning to the classroom, relate it to what they did, and start identifying what went wrong and what they could have done, and improve the next cycle. That means if this batch has done this, the learning should go into the next batch project. So that every time when you undertake that particular learning project, hello? Every time you undertake that project, it in fact improves the whole thing. Reduce time for telling, lecturing cut time. Just please give me a minute. Sorry. Reduce time for telling, that is lecturing. I think when I was talking about a learning plan, I said specify the amount of time which you will speak in the classroom. Put that and stick to that. I know it will be very difficult for us because all through our life, we have been doing that, and asking somebody to do something different all of a sudden is a little difficult. But with practice, you'll form a habit, and that habit would help you to do what you want. Involve students in learning. So out of the 60 minutes, give yourself 12 minutes and remaining 48 minutes, make the students to do things. Enhance research in education, what works and what doesn't work. I might say, okay, don't spend more time in speaking in the classroom. But you've got to decide whether it is working or not working. That's the research in education. I might advise you, but that's not necessarily to make work for you. Or you might come from a different place where it might not work. So what works and what doesn't work, your research should speak. The evidence must speak, and only then you stick to it. I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm speaking from my own perspective. Use learning science to understand learning at its core. Learning science. How learning happens scientifically. Need to understand that. And next time, maybe I think tomorrow, I'll be speaking to you about learning science. These are some of the trends of 21st century which would be available. This is what opportunities that we have in our head. There'll be great opportunity in micro-learning and learner engagement. Micro-learning, that means changing our style of learning for students, giving them the small bites of learning and making students to engage more and more in the future. Virtual learning and edutainment are going to stay here. So we appreciate, no doubt about it. It has its advantages, but virtual learning in itself is not going to create a major impact on our student learning because there's a lot of limitations. We'll be using a lot of AI-driven tools and immersive technology in the future in order to create that learning experience which I was speaking to you a few minutes back. So we have a lot of opportunities to use technology in the future. Gamifications and simulations would be far more used in the future. Curated and bespoke programs and degrees. That's the academic leaders need to decide. That means developing very specific degree programs for a specific kind of organization, specific kind of people, or it is putting the other way around, like creating a cafeteria system in education. That means you make things available at your own college and let the student come and pick those courses and create a degree out of that courses, rather than having a predetermined, fixed, standardized degree programs. Today, what we have is a predetermined, standardized degree program. That means we predetermine and say that these are the number of courses which you do, and these are the courses for this particular degree. So let's get out of that and let the student decide what he wants to learn. And we as the university or education institutions say then, okay, you go ahead with this because you think it is of your interest, you think it will help you in your life, you think it's going to solve the problems of the society, take in it. Collaborative peer learning and micro schools and pods are going to be far more relevant in the future. As we understand, as faculty members, we have been engaging quite a lot in collaboration, and it's becoming very easy today because of the technology. Independent and self-learning and personalization of learning would be a great opportunity for us. We as faculty members, a lot of are engaged into this activity. Focus on learn how to learn, that is how to solve problems. Blockchain technology for learning management would be used much more in the future. Focus on generic skills than tools or techniques. I'm a great advocate of generic skills rather than these specific tools or techniques. A lot of people at times discuss, creating industry-ready students. I don't, subscribe to that word called, that term called industry-ready. Why should we prepare that industry-ready students? That's not our role. Our role is to create or develop that generic skills in students. That is their ability to apply the knowledge in whatever the context it is. We as universities or institutions can't cope up with tools and techniques which keep changing in industry. By the time you introduce a tool to a first year students, and when he passes out after 4 years, you will find the tool itself has vanished from the industry. So you can't cope up with that. But yes, that generic skill, that fundamental skills of thinking, if we develop, sure, we are creating people for better tomorrow. Role of a teacher to guide students to filter options to make right choices for their growth. This is the major role of a teacher. Don't select and give him an option. You tell him how should he actually filter the options. What is the mechanism? What is the process one should learn to filter the options and make a right choice? Rather than saying, okay, you do this and you do no. You and me need to tell them, in order to make a choice, this is how you should proceed. This is how do you in fact start filtering your choices. If we can do that, I think we're making a great contribution to the student. That's thanks from my part. I'm open to any questions if you have. Thank you.
Yes, participants, if you have any questions, you can ask. Do you have any questions?
I think I made a sense.
Yes, yes. It was a wonderful session, sir.
Thank you.
Fine. So,
Participants must have gone to sleep.
Yes, sir. May I go
will you
ahead?
please summarize the session?
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this insightful session by Professor Dr. Raghuvir Singh, sir, on opportunities for achieving excellence in higher education. Sir shedded light on the nitty-gritty of quality in education. Sir also described how excellence differs and is defined variedly. Sir told about the objectives of education, which demands industry focus, research, and teaching at its core. Sir explained holistic education wonderfully, which focused on the meaning of learning, different learning processes, the 5 stages of learning new skills, under which Sir explained various types of competencies and incompetencies. Sir then explained the 2 broad approaches to education, which include input and outcome-based education. Sir then explained the fundamental difference between learning and assurance of learning. Sir then explained about Bloom's taxonomy, levels of knowledge, then in what way students differ, and this was followed by the various trends in industry. We are grateful to you, sir, for your time and your engaging and insightful session, and I'm certain that all participants would reap great benefits from it. I also thank all the participants for their enthusiasm and participation throughout.
Thank you, Arundhati. So once again, sir, sincere thanks for sparing your precious time and giving the very, very valuable inputs on the limitations and the challenges in the excellence in higher education. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure to interact with you all. Look forward tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We have one more session scheduled, and we will look forward for that session also. And
Thank you.
once again, thanks to all the participants for actively listening and also being interactive and asking the questions and making this session as a wonderful session. Thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
Thanks.